New emails from WikiLeaks show President Obama's transition team kept a list of Muslim and Asian candidates for administration jobs. Arab Christians were excluded or put on a separate list. This email also shows the administration was obsessed with gender, race, and religion. Candidates were further categorized by their nationality and sometimes race. Another WikiLeaks showed that the team kept extensive lists of non-white candidates for administration posts.
Officials in Virginia have reversed building safety codes for abortion clinics. The regulations were enacted under Republican Governor Bob McDonnell. They required the clinics to follow hospital-like outpatient standards, since mistakes during abortion procedures can put women's lives at risk. Pro-abortion groups opposed the rules, complaining that they were too expensive for abortion businesses. So Democratic Governor Terry McAuliffe filled Virginia's Board of Health with his appointees, who then overturned the regulation.
Lawmakers are vowing to put President Nicolas Maduro on trial after a court that is friendly to Maduro suspended the referendum campaign to remove the unpopular president. An opposition leader says Venezuela's Congress is now in open rebellion after a majority of its members voted that the court decision constituted a coup with government participation. Amid severe shortages of food and pretty much everything else and the world's highest inflation, Venezuela is a country in crisis, reaping the fruits of socialist control. Polls suggest as much as 80% of voters want Maduro gone this year. This protester says, "I have a 17-year-old son. I want my child to leave the country. I don't want him to be here. I'm afraid every time he goes out. That's why I'm here. I can't take it anymore." This woman says, "We're tired of this. We want freedom." Experts believe legal action against the president would likely fail because Maduro, a protege and vice president of the late Hugo Chavez, controls the courts. Venezuela's Congress has asked the international community to step in to, quote, protect the people's right to democracy by any means necessary. Both the United States and the Organization of American States have condemned the Maduro government's move to squash the recall referendum. Opposition leaders have pledged to build pressure in the streets, starting with a nationwide protest Wednesday called The Taking of Venezuela. Dale Hurd, CBN News.
And back here in this country, 4 teenagers are under arrest in Philadelphia after a string of random attacks on the campus of Temple University. Surveillance video showing there a mob of up to 200 people assaulting and robbing students after they couldn't get into a local theater on Friday.
Digital companies typically celebrate a spike in web traffic, the attention they receive from millions of us online. On Friday, however, Twitter, Netflix, and dozens of other companies nearly drowned in that traffic. And it wasn't coming from people, but from millions of hijacked machines. They flooded the web with fake requests. Now the FBI and the Department of Homeland Security are investigating. A shadowy group called New World Hackers has claimed responsibility. Dan Ackerman covers the internet for CNET, a CBS company. He says this type of attack is old, but with troubling new twists, including the takeover of millions of internet-connected machines, from baby monitors to thermostats to DVRs, all without the owner's knowledge.
This is a large-scale version of it that affects a lot of people, and I have no doubt we're going to see a lot more of this going forward. It's a very effective way to make your mark felt online.
All while striking the bedrock of the modern world as well.
The United Nations World Heritage Committee voted Wednesday to approve a resolution ignoring Jewish ties to the Temple Mount in Jerusalem's Old City. The vote mirrored last week's resolution by UNESCO's Executive Committee declaring the Temple Mount and Western Wall Islamic. That move was an attempt to sever the historical Jewish connection to the sites and label Israel as an occupying power. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu blasted the new vote. He said, quote, radical Islamic forces destroy mosques, churches, and archaeological sites, while Israel is the only state in the region that preserves them and allows freedom of worship for all religions. He continued, UNESCO's World Heritage Committee deserves to be condemned.
To growing outrage this evening after thousands of National Guard soldiers who served this country were asked to pay back bonuses they were promised to re-enlist and go to war a decade ago.
After serving for 2 decades, Army Sergeant Robert Richmond agreed to go back to war after being given a $15,000 bonus.
I had a contract and I served the entire contract and I risked my life to serve that contract.
Now, 10 years after getting the money, the Pentagon wants it back. During the height of the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, the National Guard used bonuses to entice soldiers across the country to re-enlist. Extra cash intended for those with skills in high demand. But criminal fraud by a National Guard official dispensing bonuses led many in California to receive payments they didn't qualify for. Guardsmen like Christopher Van Meter, who survived a roadside bomb in Iraq, received a Purple Heart and then notices to pay back $46,000.
It was a slap in the face.
In California, roughly 10,000 soldiers told to pay up. $22 million already recouped. The deputy commander of the California Guard says it's unfair, but that his hands are tied.
If we could wave the magic wand and make all this go away, we would.
The Al Smith Dinner, hosted by the Archbishop of New York, is an annual gathering of elites for Catholic charities supporting needy children held at the Waldorf Astoria Hotel in New York on the third Thursday of October. The event honors former New York Governor Al Smith, the first Catholic presidential candidate. Ceremonially, it is the last event at which the two U.S. presidential candidates share a stage before the election. In the past, the event has been an occasion for American power brokers to rub elbows with their political pawns.
Distinguished dais, or better known as the top 1%. Thank you all very much. This is an impressive crowd, the haves and the have-mores.
Of course, rules of fairness have to be enforced because what other safeguard do we have besides the press?
But this election year, being one of the strangest on record, presented yet another opportunity for Donald Trump to hold no quarter against Hillary Clinton.
It's great to be here with 1,000 wonderful people, or as I call it, a small, intimate dinner with some friends. Or as Hillary calls it, her largest crowd of the season. Hillary is so corrupt. She got kicked off the Watergate Commission. How corrupt you have to be to get kicked off the Watergate Commission. Pretty corrupt. Hillary is and has been in politics since the 70s. What's her pitch? The economy is busted. The government's corrupt. Washington is failing. Vote for me. I've been working on these problems for 30 years. I can fix it, she says. I wasn't really sure if Hillary was going to be here tonight because I guess you didn't send her invitation by email. Or maybe you did, and she just found out about it through the wonder of WikiLeaks. We've learned so much from WikiLeaks. For example, Hillary believes that it's vital to deceive the people by having one public policy and a totally different policy in private. That's okay. I don't know who they're angry at, Hillary, you're right. For example, here she is tonight in public pretending not to hate Catholics. Now, if some of you haven't noticed, Hillary isn't laughing as much as the rest of us. That's because she knows the jokes. And all of the jokes were given to her in advance of the dinner by Donna Brazile, which is, everyone knows, of course, Hillary's belief that it takes a village, which only makes sense, after all, in places like Haiti, where she's taken a number of them. Thank you. I don't know, and I don't want this evening without saying something nice about my opponent. Hillary's been in Washington a long time. She knows a lot about how government works. And according to her sworn testimony, Hillary has forgotten more things than most of us will ever know. That I can tell you.
Of course, the media will spin this with the intent of containing Trump's populist message while simultaneously falling on their own sword. Truth be told, this is only the beginning. Whatever the outcome of the presidential election, the Clinton crime family will ultimately have to answer to the veracity growing within the American consciousness.